Okay, we are live.
Okay.
Make sure everything is cut down so I won't get no feedback.
I don't know why I don't get feedback. I got another setup though. Now I've got all this different equipment I'm gonna set up for my. Cause I'm gonna start back doing my lives now.
Yeah, I said I was gonna call you because I need some tutorials over here.
I got you. Yeah, but I just spent another $2,000 on equipment.
Ooh,
So
okay, good, good, good. So we are live, guys. Come on in. I see you, Paul.
that's
I know you always want the best equipment. I
it. I
do.
got
Yeah, I do know that. But welcome, guys. Thank you for coming in. Just when you come in, let us know where you're joining us from. Today, it's going to be a conversation with uh, Kevin Bruno and Sheila Bruno. So, and as I just shared with Kevin, I don't have a script, I don't have no questions. We're just going to talk. We're going to talk about our life. We're going to talk about before marriage, during marriage, and then after marriage. And I know, and I'm not going to say I think, I know that this is a very necessary conversation because of what Kevin and I went through. And after he and I went through it, and we decided to go public and start talking about it and sharing our story, we found out that this was not only our story, but there were so many out there who were struggling in reentry in relationships. And it's a topic that many reentry programs, they just don't talk about it for whatever reason. They don't talk about the struggles after prison. They don't talk about that. And that's one of the things that kind of frustrates me because I get the messages, I get the texts, not only from women, but system impacted men who have came home and have admitted to the struggle, right? Just recently, I got a message from someone who uh, someone who was in the caravans unit here in Houston, Texas. Well, Kevin was once incarcerated and where he worked. And the guy said, I'm struggling. He said, and I know it's me and not my lady friend. And he said, would you help us? So this is a necessary conversation. And I will not be silent. I will not be silent because it affected our lives. It just kind of blindsided us. So, for those of you who do not know, Kevin and I were married at one time. We were married, but I just want to say thank you to Kevin for agreeing to do this live with me. He did not hesitate, he did not say, let me think about it. And one thing that I give him kudos for every time I have an opportunity, because uh, he never once said, "Don't put my business in the street. Don't be telling them people about my business." And to my knowledge, he was one of the first who stood up in the caravans unit and said to the guys, while he was working there as a reentry specialist, he said to the guys, "Man, when you get out of here, go get you some help." And many of them was like, yeah, that's you, Bruno, that's you. And they denied the fact. And some of them have got out, and some of them are now divorced, and some of them are back in prison as it relates to reentry in relationships. So, Kevin Bruno, big kudos to you. Mad love for you. So much love for you. We went through what we went through, but I'm glad to see that we're at the space where we are today. And I
absolutely.
was thinking about us today, and I was thinking about Granny. Granny is my mom, and my mom loved her some Kevin. And it was one of the times that Kevin and I were separated. And my mom was in the hospital, and she was basically transitioning, and she was unresponsive. And at the time, Kevin and I were separated. And he called me and he said, I'm coming home. He said, you're over there dealing with all you're dealing with granny and you're dealing with this. And he said, I'm coming home. And so he came home. And that night when I went to visit my mom, who had been unresponsive, just not talking and not responding, and I whispered in her to her ear, and I said, guess who's back? And I said, Kevin's home. And she opened her eyes and she smiled after having been unresponsive for some days. So my mom loved her some Kevin Bruno. And so, Kevin, thank you so much. Thank you once again for agreeing to do this live with me. I got so much love for you. I really, really, really do.
I
And I
appreciate
think that
it. Thank you.
I hope that other couples can get to this point where, if it didn't work out and it wasn't anything that was physical, that you can remain friends. But I know for a fact, even when Kevin and I began to do this, went through what we went through, I knew for a fact that we were supposed to do this work together. And I said like this, what the devil meant for evil, God has worked it out for his good and for his purpose. So thank you, Kevin Bruno. Jump on in here and say what you want to say, and then we're gonna get to start talking about our life.
Yeah, I mean, and it's my pleasure, and the love is reciprocated here. I got just as much love for you as you have for me. Yeah, I mean, we went through some stuff, and a lot of people have to understand that even though things don't work out for you uh, in the marital space, that doesn't mean that you guys become enemies. There may be some things that you all both have to overcome, like we did, uh, in order for you to be able to occupy the same space. Period. Not just a marital space, but occupy a neutral space. Period. So, I mean, I'm always open to for discussions. As you know, I just got my 501(c)(3), and this gonna do exactly what we're talking about. We're gonna, you and I've had that conversation. It's gonna address the issues that we're talking about head on. And I just got my well, I'm waiting for my certification to come back, but I'll be a certified uh, peer specialist. So my job is just beginning, and I'm glad to be in that space. So, but I'm glad that we can do this together, because I think our story is more powerful if we tell it together than it is if we tell it separately. So,
Right. And you and I used to go into the parole office and
hmm
share our story. And we've spoken at a reentry conference, and I agree that it's very powerful when we share our story together. So for those of you who are joining, I see Joe, I see Yasmina, I see Diana, Valerie. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And for those of you who do not know, Kevin and I was married, and let me go back a little bit. For those of you who have not read my book, Wife After Prison, Caught in the Aftermath, March the 5th, 2014, I'm 8,000 miles away in Bagram, Afghanistan. And I get a friend request from Kevin Bruno, and Kevin and I had dated in the ninth grade. 53 days later, Kevin and I was married. We were married. One of the happiest times in my life. I used to stand in this window right here, waiting on him to come home. Couldn't wait to see that white dually hit that corner. And one of the things, as a husband, he didn't require much. He did not require much. He wasn't one of these, you ain't got nothing cooked. You've been here all day and you ain't got nothing cooked. He wasn't that type of a husband, gentle giant, very, very gentle giant. And so Kevin and I, he had a trucking business, and we were doing the trucking thing together. And then going into, I think, maybe the latter part of the second year, the third years, things begin to change a little bit. Um, Kevin would always say to me, I got you. Baby, would you do this? I got you. Baby, can you do this? I got you. And he did, and he had me. But he began to change. And so, Kevin, I don't know exactly why. I have an idea. I know some parts of it. So, can you just address what the change was in? But we before we do that, because I think people need to understand, as con, I had to gain an understanding of trauma. You know, a lot of times we don't even consider trauma. I was ignorant to trauma, you know, but you did share with me in the very beginning that you had some trauma in your life, even as a child. So, can you talk to us about the trauma?
Yeah, well, one of the things that we found out, and I say we, as far as you and I, and then we found out that the world has uncovered it as well, is that the majority of people who are in prison have suffered some type of childhood trauma, and I had my share. You know, I had quite a few traumatic experiences as a child. I won't address all of them right now, but things that happened to you as a child that you never addressed or have addressed as a child follow you into your adulthood, and that's one of the things that happened to me. And then if you don't understand that you've been traumatized, then you end up living with that trauma for so long that you think it's natural. You know, you
Yeah,
think that the depression and the wanting to be in seclusion and the mood swings, you think, oh, that's natural because it's what you've done. It's what you've always known. So it's important for us to understand that um, anything that has traumatized you as a child, whether you saw a violent act, a domestic violence in your home, uh, molestations, anything that's traumatized you as a child, whether you feel like it's traumatized you or not, it's affecting you right now. And that was the case with me. You know, a lot of what I had gone through as a child was affecting me as an adult, but it was finally coming to surface because I had been in prison. In prison, you dare not talk about being traumatized and being emotional and all of that. In prison, I had to put on this face. You know, I had to essentially become a different person in prison to be able to survive in the way that I wanted to survive. So you know, and that's traumatic. The incarceration portion is traumatic. So you have the childhood trauma, then you have the trauma of being incarcerated, then you have the trauma of being released from prison, but not really knowing, you know, what your life is going to be like, who you are, and you know what things are going to be, and that's traumatic in itself. So, and you know, you and I talked about the fact that when I moved out of my parents' home, I moved into the little trailer back in the back by myself, and I was in seclusion. You know, I didn't really do a lot of socializing, so it was easy for me to pretend that I was okay. You know, that I hadn't been traumatized, and actually, I didn't know what being traumatized was at that time. And then you and I got back together. We ended up getting married, and now I am in a space where I have to constantly share my space and my environment with somebody, whether I love you or not. This is another traumatizing event. You know, I mean, all the love in the world is not going to stop me from being traumatized by the fact that now, after almost 30 years of incarceration, and not wanting to share space with somebody, and feeling the need to when you got a cellie for almost 30 years, feeling the need to a cellmate, feeling the need to have your own space and your own freedom. Now that's gone. So now the reality of marriage is here, and it was a little overwhelming for me. You know,
yeah,
I was able to fit into the mold for the first couple of years, and then it started to actually wear on me. You know, it had nothing to do with you per se, but a lot to do with me having to make adjustments to another person's personality and another person's needs and another person's wants. And now I've gone from depending and catering to only me to having somebody dependent on me and needing me to cater to them. So
yeah.
it got to be difficult. Yeah.
And I began to see the change. I began to see where he would become so very isolated. He would either come home and sit in the truck a little while, or he would come home and he would go into his office and he would sit in his office and he would stay in his office for hours. And, eventually coming to bed only to sleep because 4:30 he up. 4:30 he up,
Yep.
only to sleep a couple of hours. So I began to see the change, but I didn't know what it was, why he was changing so. And I remember one day saying he was in his he was in his office and I was in the bedroom, and I remember hollering across the room, "Do you not want the marriage?" And he said, "Oh my God." He said, "Sheila, it's not about you. It's
And I
not
thought
about."
about that. I think about that a lot because that wasn't a true statement. It was about you. It was about both of us. But at that
Yeah,
time, I was thinking about my mental state. So when I said it's
yeah,
not about you, that sounded selfish, but because it actually was. I mean, where the two of us were concerned in our marriage, it was about you. It was about both of us. But that was my response to what I was dealing with, what I was feeling. In other words, it's not about what you've done or what anything that you could have done. It was about me and what I was going through.
yeah. And I didn't know how to help. I didn't know how to reach, and I didn't know anything about trauma and all of that. And this is why I say to those who are in relationships, even family members, because when I gained an understanding, because after Kevin and I divorce, I mean, we separated, and then I was angry with the brother. I was angry with the brother because I felt like, okay, now I'm over here and I got to take care of all these bills by myself, and he didn't ran off. So I was angry with him for a little while. And but again, the more that I began to study trauma, and I say to family members, anybody who is watching and who is in a relationship with someone who has been to prison, who has had childhood trauma, that pre incarceration trauma, that post incarceration trauma, it is not it is not our place to say get over it. It's not
Yeah.
our place to say, get over it. That was then, this was now. Because I think in the beginning, that was my mindset. But again, when I began to struggle, because uh, people handle traumatic experiences differently, right? So what Kevin may uh, could not handle, somebody else would, breeze through it. But again, it's not our responsibility. Either you're gonna educate yourself and be supportive, or if you can't deal with it at the time, because the trauma that Kevin was going through, it attached itself to me. It attached itself to me because I start to think he doesn't love me, he regrets marrying me, and here it is, I was overseas, I was doing my own thing, I had this great life, and now I got married, and da 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 da. So it attached itself to me, that vicarious trauma. So a lot of times we get into these relationships, and we have no knowledge of what we're dealing with. Kevin told me day one, when we were communicating via Skype, I think it was. No, we were on Facebook. And he told me day one, he didn't wait 2 weeks or 3 weeks to tell me that he had been to prison. He told me day one, he told me about the traumatic experiences that he had gone through. And again, I'm like, all I want to know is, are you married? Look,
Uh,
all I want to know, are you married and do you have children?
yeah.
That's all I wanted to know.
And the
But
answer was no to both of
and
them.
no, and look, I was sitting at my desk, and when he said no, I was like, yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. So we got married, and again, the first 2 years, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. But one of the things Kevin used to do is, and I don't know whether you were trying to see how I would react, but you started to saying, I need to go get me some help. And you would just say it casually. And I don't know whether you were saying it to see how I would react. And I was like, okay, babe, yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I
But
think I might have been testing the waters.
yeah, trying to test and see how it was. But then when the behaviors and when it progressed and he would say that, I'm like, yeah, you need to go get you some help. So another one of the things that I want to talk about is because you said I had you on crutches. You had never said it in that fashion. Because again, Kevin, you talk about your expenses that you had before getting married. Talk about that.
I didn't have any. Yeah, I was a single man living in a trailer that my family owned, on property that my family owned. My truck was paid for. I had less than $3,000 worth of bills per
Yeah,
month. I mean, way less.
yeah. I thought you would see
Uh,
them like maybe back initially like $700 worth of
yeah,
bills.
yeah, from the beginning, and so it was, it went. I went from no bills to like, wow, how we going? How do we manage this? So it was a shock. It was one of those things that kind of all of a sudden you understand that you might be in a little bit over your head. So
Right,
yeah,
right. And another thing is that family members, intimate partners, they need to realize is to give your loved ones permission to say no. Give them permission to say no, because before you know it, I'm on the phone with the dealership. Go pick up this 2014 dually truck,
seven hundred
right?
dollars, $750
$707. That's just a truck note, right?
truck note. Yeah,
Just a truck note, not knowing that this was pressure for him. Not knowing that, okay, here it is. I have $707 worth of bills per month. And now this woman then put me in this dually truck and I gotta pay for it. Post incarceration trauma.
yeah,
Trauma. But he kept quiet. He maintained. He was rolling with. And one day he said, I'm gonna call these people come pick this. I'm gonna call these people to come pick this truck up.
yeah,
Yeah. So we don't even consider this. We do not. We look. Kevin could tell me, or Kevin could think about us some stuff, or casually say that he wanted to do something or whatever. I'm on it.
yeah. And
I'm,
and
I'm
and,
on it.
and one of the things that you guys got to do is that when you like Sheila was always a do person. Sheila was never one of those. Let's think about it. Let's talk about it. Sheila was just let's do. So one of the things that you all have to do, man, in your relationship is have those discussions. I think if Sheila and I had talked about that, it would have because I remember when I was going to get the truck, I called Sheila and told Sheila I was going to take my truck, the truck that it was paid for, and go get it fixed, and we were going to roll with this because this truck is already paid for, and this new truck is going to be a big note and a big responsibility. And Sheila said, "Man, why are you going to try to ride around and run a business with some old used ups?" So to appease my wife, I said, "Okay, well, you know what, man, you're right. Okay, I'm gonna." So I stopped thinking for myself at that point, and it was what I needed to do to make sure that I made my wife happy. It stopped being about, and that's when I think a lot of our change began because Sheila told me that I was changing on her, and I was because, in all actuality, I was kind of losing Kevin.
Yeah.
I stopped being Kevin because I wanted to make sure Sheila was happy. But in the interim, Kevin got to be miserable. So now, not only is Kevin miserable, but Kevin is making Sheila miserable because, and I don't, and I didn't have the wherewithal to understand what was going on with me at that time. I didn't know that all of the things that I had dealt with before and all the things that I was dealing with at the time had started to combine to create this this tsunami that was getting ready to hit our lives. So
Yeah. And again, this is something that we have to think about. I mean, I am all about empowerment for the women. I'm all about, if it doesn't work, if he's being abusive, you walking away to save yourself. At the same time, I want us women, to understand we have to look at the whole picture, not just the piece of the pie
yeah,
that we want to satisfy ourselves. And that's why I am a big advocate on educating yourself. Educating yourself. If I would have had the knowledge that I have now, there's a high probability that I may still be Mrs. Bruno.
well, you just miss Bruno now. You still
Yeah,
got the last
I
name.
still got, but I'm saying,
Yeah, I
I
know.
had I had no knowledge, and there was so many. So I want to talk about also when I started needing support for myself. And one of the things that was so irritating to me is that I was like, forget about him and what he's going through. I need support for myself. Because again, for those of you who read, Kevin was away, we were separated. And when I would go to the store to get some sleeping pills, I would go to Walmart, get these little Equate, and baby, they would knock me out. And I would get I would get 3 bottles, and I kept them by the bed. And every time I wake up, I just pop another one in my mouth because I wanted to sleep.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what was going on, you know. So let's talk about the and you briefly talked about it is um, and again, like Kevin said, I'm on the phone with the dealership. Hey, he coming to pick up this truck, da 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 da. And the responsibility piece. We think that, he's the head of the household, and I can't wait till he get home to pass him the baton and this, that, and other. And baby, it's just not that simple.
Mm-mm.
It's just not that simple of passing a man a baton who has never been a father, who has never been a husband, who has never been in a relationship outside of the visitation room. So, can you talk to us about the responsibility aspect of it? And I know it was a lot of pressure on you because, like you said, I was a dude. I didn't talk about it. If I thought you thought about it, okay, own it. So
Well,
can
a
you
lot of
talk
these
to us about
brothers,
that?
yeah, a lot of when I was working in the prison, uh, one of the things that I used to hear brothers say was that, Mr. Bruno, man, I'm going home, man, and I'm gonna take control of my household, man. I'm gonna be the man of the house. And it used to frustrate me because, and I would tell these brothers, man, the first thing you got to do when you get home is practice being a man. You don't even know what a man looks like right now. You've been gone all these years. How you gonna leave prison, walk into somebody else's house, and say, "I'm now the man of the house"? You haven't paid any bills. You haven't bought any groceries. You haven't established yourself as a man. You haven't established yourself as somebody worthy of leadership and worthy of people following you. So one of the things that you got to do when you get out of this penitentiary is before you walk into somebody's house talking about you the man of the house, is establish yourself as a man first, which means that you are responsible and you willing to accept the responsibilities that come along with that marriage and that manhood, and then earn the following of and the respect of the people in the household. Let them decide they're gonna follow you. You can't demand that somebody's follow you.
Right. And my truth, again, I didn't want Kevin to be pressured about, paying a whole lot of bills for a long time. Kevin didn't know what it cost to run the household, to maintain the household, because I took care of everything. He would contribute, but I
And,
took care of everything,
but
you
don't do
know?
that, people. For you all that are listening, don't. I mean, you're gonna have to give him some kind of support if he's in your house and y'all there together. But what you have to do is you have to set those boundaries, and you have to let him know that you expect him to be a participating partner from the beginning. Uh, can't cater to his every whim because he just got home. I mean, we understand. Hey, man, listen, I got you. I know you need to get on your feet. I know we need to do some things together. But let's sit down, and you don't have to put it out there to him as if you giving him an ultimatum. But what you all have to do is sit down and let him participate with you in creating a plan for his life in the future. So he has to be able to sit down with you, and the two of you create a plan for y'all's future together, for what his future is going to look like in your relationship, and what you all's future is going to look like as he participates in it. If all you do is give, and let him lean on you and lean on you and lean on you, then when the time comes for him to step up, it's like, okay, wait a minute. So you just gonna snatch the ladder from under me now? Now,
Yeah.
now I'm on my own all of a sudden. It's frustrating and it's frightening.
Yeah.
And the reason
Yeah.
it's frustrating is because it's so frightening that now all of a sudden, after you've been carrying me for all these years, now you tell me I'm on my own.
Yeah. And see, and that's what happened to me. Yeah, I made a lot of mistakes. I did. I made a lot of mistakes. And again, like I said, I was taking care of everything. That's me. That's just me. I want to take care of everything. And it got to the point where uh, almost 4 years into the marriage or something like that. I remember this the very day that Kevin oh Lord God. Kevin was in the front room, in the family room right there in the den. And he was over there, he was getting ready to open the blinds. And I came behind him and I said, I need you to be more responsible. I need you to be the head of the household. Because, see, I got tired. Okay, I'm tired of maintaining this. I'm tired of paying this. I'm tired of this. So I said, I need you to be responsible. Do you remember what you said?
Probably not. It's been, look,
I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it because I'll never forget the look on your face. And you were under so much stress. And you could see the pain in your face. And you turned to me and you said, Sheila, what does responsibility look like?
and that's what I mean when I say you can't cripple, because a lot of people, to a lot of people, that sounds like a crazy question, or it sounds like a question that somebody's using as a way of manipulation or something of that nature. But you got to remember this: I was gone 28 years. For those 28 years, you don't have responsibility. Your job is to get up in the morning and go to work. They're gonna tell you what time to go to work. They're gonna tell you what time to go eat. They're gonna tell you to do what time to do all the things you need to do. The only thing you gotta think about is when to use the restroom. That's it. Everything else is gonna be told to you when and how to do it. You need clothes. You go down there and shower. They're gonna hang you some clothes out of a little hole in the wall. You get done showering, put your clothes on, go back to your cell.
Yeah.
So when you
Yeah.
have a man who comes home from prison, and you all of a sudden that's why I say y'all gotta sit down and have that conversation about y'all's plans for the future, and what his part in it looks like. Because when you tell a man who's been incarcerated for so many years that now you have to accept the responsibility for this family, for this relationship, for this family, man, that's you getting ready to scare somebody to death. Because he doesn't know what that looks like. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, just being honest, he doesn't know what that looks like. I didn't know what that looks like. I didn't know what being in a committed marital relationship looked like.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what
Yeah.
responsibilities went with that. I knew what the television said it looked like. I knew what the story said it looked like. So for me, the idea is, okay, man, if I have to be the prototypical television dad, I'm in trouble. Because I don't know how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this is why, and it's so important. And you and I have talked about it. Is going into the prisons and sharing our story and giving them some truth, giving them some facts. Because I know that the marriage seminars that they have in the prisons is the typical basic. You're telling about Adam and Eve gave Adam the apple, whatever. But there needs to be some Sheila and some Kevins and some real, I mean, not that that's not real story, but something that they can relate to. You
Yeah.
know, I've had guys to write me after reading my book and saying thank you for writing your book, and they talked about the hell that they have put their wives through. And I'm talking about, these are people who have been in and out of prison, and they said, I now understand. So it's very, very important. And this is my thing with these reentry programs, man, it just gets me. You know, I was at a conference with one of the reentry programs here, and they were doing their PowerPoint slides, and you know, we offered this and we offered that, and I'm sitting at the front table, and I'm like, man, these people up here lying, because some of your residents are calling me while they struggling. Instead of telling them how to get a job so you can get a cash and car and crib, they are leaving out the mental health portion. And they cannot take that off the table. And Kevin, this is another thing is, you know, I see some guys coming home and man, they struggling. They're struggling. Why do you think? I know it's not easy to talk about mental health, but I think a lot of times, a lot of them don't talk about it because of lack of knowledge.
Well, not
Like,
just that. First and foremost, you know, and now I can only speak from the African American community, and I'm not excluding anybody, but I want you all to understand what I'm saying. In the African American community, we don't talk about mental health.
yeah,
Back then, we didn't anyway. It's a much more open subject now, but and that's when like within the last 5 years. But back then, we didn't talk about having mental health problems or emotional problems or anything of that
yeah,
nature. And then in prison, you didn't tell somebody that you were struggling emotionally. That wasn't something that you could talk about. So, you know, when you get out, you've been in an environment not only from uh, pre-prison, but during prison, where talking about your feelings and talking about your struggles, emotional struggles and psychological struggles is taboo. You don't
yeah,
ask for, you don't talk about that. So when for me, I don't think I ever explained to you how difficult it was for me to because when I was saying in half jest, I think I need to get some help. I think I need to get some help. It was me testing the waters because of what happens in our communities and what happens in the prison. You don't tell people that you got a problem. How am I going to tell my wife? Man, I think I need to see. I think I need to see somebody because I'm losing my mind. So you think we divorced now? You tell some woman that's married to you that you got emotional and psychological problems all of a sudden, and it's like, wait a minute, why you didn't tell me all this before we got married? I didn't know.
yeah,
So it's not easy for those guys, for brothers getting out to do that. Now, what I plan to do, what we hope to do, and what you and I had been doing prior is going in and explaining to these brothers, listen, man, when you get out, because to be a part of the New Leaf Project, the first thing they have to do when they get out is get a psychological evaluation, so that we can, if it's needed, so that we can start a treatment program. But we want brothers to know right off the bat that, man, you didn't just wake up one day and decide you wanted to be an inmate. You didn't wake up one day and decide you wanted to be a criminal. Some things happened to you traumatically in your life that led you to that point. So what you have to do first and foremost is forgive yourself, because a
yeah,
lot of the things that happened to you were subconscious things, were things that weren't under your control. Now you made some decisions as a result of that you have to own, but you still have to go back and find the root of the cause for all of that.
yeah. And you know, one of the things is when I talk to and it was yesterday or whatever day it is that I had the support group meeting. Oh, I got to throw this out here, Kevin. This is going to throw you to the side, but I got to say this here. Kevin
Oh,
is not a narcissist.
oh, somebody said I was a narcissist.
No, 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 no.
Oh,
Uh-uh.
okay.
We'll talk about that. That's a sidebar conversation.
All right.
But I just want to put that, yeah, I just want to put that out there in the atmosphere coming from my mouth. Kevin Bruno is not a narcissist, okay? But
Not by a
the other
long shot,
night
I don't
when
think.
we, huh?
I said not by
Yeah,
a long shot, I don't think.
not at all. Not at
Yeah.
all. But the other night when we had our private support group women, that's what we were talking about, narcissists. And
Yeah.
that very night, I got the next day, between that night and the next day, I got 12 DMs from women. 12 DMs. One of the things that I asked, when I'm talking to these women, I asked, did he have any childhood trauma? I don't know.
You better know before
Yeah,
you before you find out unwittingly.
yeah. Yeah, did he that's one of the things I asked. Did he
Yeah,
have any childhood trauma?
yeah,
Right? And one of the things is we as women, we females, we are scared to ask the question. One of the questions that were there, how can I support my loved one? How
yeah,
can I support? My thing is this. You got to educate yourself
yeah,
first and foremost, because a lot of times the focus is so much on him. You have to educate yourself. You don't want to pick up a book and read. It is so much information out here in the world of the internet. And then, like I said the other night, some of the same people want to bend in my ear and ask me the same questions. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that because, I even say, send him the book. If you can't invest $25 in your relationship to send him the book, if you can't talk to him about it, allow me to share our story through the pages of the book. But you got to have the conversation.
yeah.
You got to have the conversation. So, Mr. Bruno, let's see what else I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
Um,
Can I respond to something that one of your guests
yeah,
said?
and if you guys have any questions, just post the questions and then we'll answer the questions.
Yeah, Michael made the comment. It's hard as a man to find someone to talk to. Yet God has shown me the way. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's one of the things you have to do right off the bat. Even for those who are God fearing, if you don't know God, that's your personal thing. I don't have a opinion on that one way or the other.
Yeah.
But I'm getting ready to launch as soon as I get with Sheila about the website. I'm getting ready to launch a website, and then we're going to start having some weekly uh, talks, some weekly discussions, man, because I know that if I had been able to find a place where I could feel safe enough to be able to vent, to be able to discuss some of the things that I was dealing with, and if somebody had not had enough knowledge to be able to guide me to that place, I can't help, I can't cure you, but I can help to show you where maybe some of your wounds are, so that you can start trying to heal yourself. And
Yeah.
if it's something bigger than you, then you can find somebody that can help you with that. But one of the things that we have to start doing as men and as women is finding people that we can put enough trust in that they can. I'm not a licensed clinician. I got a certification. That's it. But I'm not gonna hear you, but I can help to point you in that direction and kind of show you some of the things that I deal with that maybe you're dealing with, maybe you can relate to. So yeah, we're gonna
Right.
start having some conversations, Michael, and just keep your eye open for it, man. I don't know how Sheila could get this to you, the information to you, but we'll find a way. So just be looking for New Leaf Project, and we'll find a way.
Question.
Mr. Bruno, did you resent or were you upset at Miss Bruno for sharing your story? Let me tell you something. That's a good question, but let me help you with this, bro. One of the things Sheila used to tell me at one time was that I talk too much because because if I met somebody and we started talking before we got 5 minutes into the conversation, you knew my whole life story. You knew I'd been to prison. You knew what I'd been to prison for. You knew this. You knew that. And so now, why would I resent the truth? When Sheila and I talked about this, and when Sheila told me about uh, writing the book and wanted me to, in essence, censor the book for her, I told her, I don't. That's not my job. You tell your truth. I'm not in the business of determining other people's truths. If it's your truth, then you tell that. If I have a differing opinion, and somebody asks me about it, or maybe I'll share my opinion, but I'm never gonna say that's not the truth, because your
Yeah.
truth and my truth may be different, but it's still your truth.
Yeah.
So
But
no, I
it
didn't.
was,
I didn't resent her for that. As a matter of fact, I gave her my blessing on everything that she decided she wanted to do.
and one of the things is because I wanted to make sure, I was not saying too much or whatever. And in the beginning, before he was, just gave me say, hey, just, do your thing. Uh, I would write and then I would say, hey, this is what I wrote and would read it. And a lot of me and Kevin have cried. Can I tell him we cried together?
Yeah, absolutely. I cry now.
We
I ain't
we did a lot of crying together
Yeah,
because we loved one another. We just didn't know how to figure it out. We didn't know what was happening. I remember one day we were sitting back on the patio and we was crying and we was like, we missed the bed. Because we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what we were doing. And that's why it's so, so important. And I get the messages, and oh, we getting married. Why he's in prison? And I just don't advise that. I just don't advise,
I would.
getting married
Yeah,
while he's in prison, because again, I just wouldn't advise it. But Kevin is a gentle giant, y'all. He is really a gentle giant. Um, and uh, Kevin, I got mad at you. I'm gonna tell you when I got mad at you. I
listen.
got mad at you.
You mean one of the times that you got
Yeah.
mad?
I'm gonna tell you something. Let me tell you something. The last time that I got mad at you, and I went no contact.
Okay. Uh, what did you get
I
mad
was over. Huh?
at? Okay, tell me about it. I'm listening.
I was over here, and I was struggling with these bills, y'all. And me and my girlfriend Peaches had went to Florida, and we called Kevin to come and pick us up from the airport. And he came graciously. Hey, yeah. I called him. Can you come pick us up from the airport? Yeah, yeah. He was there to pick us up from the airport. And on the way from the airport, you were talking about starting to drive for Dr. I can't remember her name.
Parker, Dr.
Yeah,
Parker.
Dr. Parker. And
Yeah.
you were going to be making X dollars a week. And I'm sitting over there, I'm bawling. I was like, I know he ain't sitting here telling me. I was like, I know he not sitting here telling me this the kind of money
Wait
he
a minute. Wait a
making.
minute. Y'all help me with this. Now, here's a woman just come back from a vacation in Florida. Are you suspecting when you pick her up that she's struggling financially? You just got back from Florida. Y'all just been on vacation. You balling.
I,
No,
I,
I ain't
I,
thinking about that.
I know, but let me tell you something. That just didn't set well with me. You came in here and you brought my suitcase, my luggage in here and set it down. And when you walked out that door, I was like, block, block. And I blocked you and hadn't talked to you in a while. But guys, let me tell you something. Let's see. Diana said, I think Kevin has a more mature mindset than some of the men we're dealing with us. You know what? And I would agree
Wait a
because
minute. Wait a
again,
minute. Read the last part.
what she said, I could put
I just feel that I could be wrong.
well, no, because it took maturity. It
Yeah.
took maturity. And then before we get, I would just want to touch on arrested development for a little bit. But it took some maturity. But for him to stand up and him to admit he had some struggles, and not only that, he went to get help, right? And
Yeah.
because of his trauma and how much trauma, again, the first one couldn't help it, right? But he didn't stop. He went to see somebody else. And that last one that he saw, I know that she really made impact, and she made a difference, because I began to see my bubbly, yeah, hey, my bubbly husband again. Um, but I want to talk about arrested development. Just touch on that just a little bit. And these are some of the things that I had to learn. Had no idea what arrested development was at all.
Yeah.
And his beautiful mom put me down with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and what Arrested Development, as far as individuals coming out of prison, refers to is that, and this is a scientific truth. This isn't something that we came up with or something that we
yeah,
just started talking about. This is a scientific truth that once you are placed in a prison environment, that your psychological and emotional growth stops at whatever age that you were incarcerated. Your psychological and emotional growth stops. So if a man goes into prison at 14, 15 years old, and he gets out 20 years later, say he's 35, 34, 35 years old, then what you've got on your hands is a 35-year-old, 14-year-old, 34-year-old, 14-year-old. Because there's nothing in prison that forces you, as it would in society, that forces you to mature emotionally and psychologically.
yeah,
So, I mean, you get that's one of the things that you have to think about. There's so many things to consider now that Sheila and I have
yeah,
been through this, and now that I've been through this and been through the counseling that I've been through. But there are so many things that you have to consider before you move into a serious relationship with somebody that's been incarcerated. Because
right,
loving somebody that's been in prison is going to require a lot more of you than loving somebody you've met at church or where. And not saying that they're going to be any better or any worse. There's just going to be some different considerations that you have to make and some different adjustments that you have to make. So,
yeah, yeah. Because early on, I would see some things like, who does that? At this age, I would see certain things, right? And just had a conversation with his mom one day, and she told me to Google it, and I did, but I'm like, I don't see nothing. But what I saw, it was really talking about the underdevelopment of the body. But as Kevin and I began to struggle, and I just kept digging and digging and digging, that's when I came across the development is incomplete. Based on when that individual experienced some type of trauma. So this is why the lady had wrote me a month or so ago, and she said, "It's like I have another child here."
yeah,
She said, "It's like I have another child." She said, "It's so draining. I have a little boy, and it's like my little boy now has a big brother."
yeah. And see,
Yeah,
let me help you out with that right quick. Because I read what Diana said. She said, so basically mine is going on 54 years old, but he's still the 38-year-old womanizer that went in. Uh, Since now there's a difference between being um, some kind of narcissistic uh, womanizer that feels like that's his place, and being somebody that's dealing with arrested development. I mean, if you've got some issues that cause you to want to do harm to people or want to abuse people, that has nothing to do with arrested development. That's something that he has to deal with in his own psyche. He needs some serious help. But if you think that the relationship is worth it, then y'all get together, man, and y'all have a conversation. Y'all talk about it. The biggest, I think, the biggest mistake that I made with Sheila and I is that I was so concerned with how she would see me that I was afraid to open up about who I was and what I was going through. So my concern was with her seeing me as in a certain light, and it prevented her from actually seeing what may have saved our marriage was the fact that I was struggling, that I was underwater and I didn't know how to swim. So
yeah,
one of the things that you guys got to do, man, is you have to you have to provide for him, and this isn't your responsibility, but it's part of your responsibility in providing for him a safe place to be himself, so that he understands that he can talk to you. So what you have to do ahead of time is start having that conversation while he's in prison. If he's already out of prison, then you and him have to sit down and have that conversation. Say, listen, man, I need you to be honest with me about where you are, about what you're dealing with, and about this and that. And then you have to present it to him in a way that he understands he can trust you with that. Because for men, that's a big trust for us to open up about our weaknesses and about our deficiencies to somebody that we want to have love and respect us. Because we equate a lack of mental health with weakness. So for us to open up to you about our lack of mental health, we have to understand that we're in a safe place where we can be that weak guy for whatever amount of time we need to be.
Right, right. So, guys, I didn't want to stay long. I just wanted Kevin and I to have a conversation, but it is very, very important that you understand. And I don't like to say what you're dealing with because I don't want it to sound like
Yeah.
there's some type of infected whatever. But
Yeah.
the reality is you need to have an understanding of uh, trauma first and foremost.
Yeah.
And again, I see so many ladies who are just so focused on what can I do for him. Baby, let me tell you something. If you don't build you some mental muscles and get you and educate
All
yourself,
right. Yeah. And start
baby.
having those conversations. Start having those conversations.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
he's in, you need to start having, because and when one of the red flags that you need to look for is that, and that's not saying that this is a deal breaker, but if he's reluctant to share with you, then that means he doesn't feel safe with you yet. And if a man doesn't feel safe with you, why would you want him in your home as your husband? If I'm in your house and I don't feel safe, how's that gonna work out for us? So the first things you guys got to do is break down those walls so that you both can feel safe. Because once you understand that he'll open up and talk to you and feel safe with you, then you feel safer with him.
So answer this for me.
Is this a trick question?
Nah.
Okay.
Is it possible
Yeah.
that an individual can be locked up in a cage for whether it's years, decades, quarter of a century, and not be affected?
Oh no. It's impossible for you to go to prison for a few months and not be affected. Because and the reason I say that is because you have to understand that prison is an unnatural environment. For you to be housed in a cage it's unnatural for animals. So it's unnatural for human beings. So no, there's no way that you're gonna go to prison and walk into an entirely alien environment and walk back out the same person you were when you went in.
Right,
No, that's not gonna happen.
right. And then if that individual has spent some time in solitary confinement, like
Oh,
Justin is on his 7th month,
yeah.
and
You see,
I had,
it's
huh?
worse. It's worse. Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
worse.
had
Go ahead.
we
I'm
had
sorry.
no, we had a video visit with Justin Sunday, and I just looked at it and I say,
Well,
"How's
because
your head?"
he's not being he's not accepting responsibility for what he got going on. And see, he wants to present one Justin to you all. But if you look at what he's going through in prison, then that tells you there's another Justin that's not on the camera when y'all are talking to him.
Yeah, but by him being in solitary confinement for seven
Yeah,
months, he got 5 more months. I looked in his face
yeah,
and I could see it.
yeah.
I could
And see,
see
that's
it.
not a good place. That's because that'll break you down. For
Yeah,
those that
I
don't
could
know,
see it.
ADSIG is a modified solitary confinement where you don't have a cellmate. So your communication with other and interaction with other people is through the cell bar. You holler at each other all day. You don't get a chance to spend time with one another.
Yeah,
The real solitary confinement is when you don't even have the opportunity to be able to talk to anybody. But
Yeah.
administrative segregation is a extremely
It's torture.
traumatizing. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
an
it's
extremely
torture.
traumatizing experience. I spent a year in that city, and it beat me up.
Yeah, it's torture. And even just sharing a story that a, a wife has given me permission to share, that her guy was in there for 3 years. And no, he was in there for 9 years. I'm sorry. And he had been home for 3 years and he still hadn't slept in the bed with her.
Yeah,
He said, he just wasn't used to sleeping with nobody and touching nobody. And
yeah.
he didn't want to do anything to her. Some of these guys are still coming home and they sleeping with stuff up under their pillow.
But and I don't say this disrespectfully, but if he's telling her that and they haven't gone to see anybody, then she's playing with fire. Because if you are living with a man who is so traumatized by his prison experiences that he can't touch you or he can't sleep in the bed with you, then there's something deeper going on that y'all need to address immediately because
Yeah.
that's not a healthy
Yeah.
situation.
And I think a lot of times the ladies, it's so many ladies who are just suffering and struggling because they don't know what to do. They don't even know how to talk to the guy about this. And that's why it's so important that you guys have this conversation now. Don't wait till he get home talking about all this other stuff. It's so important that you have the conversation now. So we're 3 minutes over. I want to thank you guys for jumping in and just hanging out with us for a little while. And I'm going to ask Mr. Bruno if he mind doing this again because there's so many things that we didn't touch on. And when he and I started having this conversation, wasn't nobody talking about the after prison experience. It just
Yeah,
wasn't happening. Nobody was talking about post incarceration syndrome. Now it's a buzzword
yeah,
around in the social media. So we're going to keep talking about it because again, it's a lot of things that we did not talk about, and it is just my hopes one day. He and I both. He's busy doing his thing. I'm busy doing my thing, and then we're going to start doing some things together. But it's just my desire to create a safe space for
yeah,
men who have been incarcerated to get into a space with some Kevins and some Matakas and some other guys, and so that they can be able to talk. Those who don't feel comfortable in going to see a therapist, but creating a safe space where they can be able to talk. So, Mr. Bruno, parting words, closing words, anything?
no, just be patient. That's the biggest thing. Be patient. Don't be in a hurry to marry. Don't be in a hurry to be in a relationship. Be patient enough to understand who it is you be in a relationship with, who it is you may be getting married to, so that you don't find yourself in a position where you feel like your whole life is torment and torture. It's not.
Yeah,
It's not. It's not that. It's not. I mean, just having a companion is not that important. Uh, you'll find somebody, but if you're willing to invest in them and you see something worthy in them, then do what you do.
yeah,
And if I can help, I'm always available.
yeah. So we're gonna say good night until next time. So hopefully again, but we're gonna still keep having this conversation. And when Kevin's schedule allows again, then we're gonna get back on here and we're gonna touch on some other things. I think today we just kind of did the little foundation, but we're gonna build from that and we're gonna talk about it because there's some stuff in there that's scary. There's some stuff in there that's dangerous, again, how it can attach itself to you. I ended up going to counseling, which I would say, that's one of the best things that I ever done for me because a lot of times, just because our loved ones have been incarcerated, we tend to think that they're the ones with the problem, but we have our own set of issues that we haven't never addressed, right? And so when your issues and their issues and your trauma and their trauma collapse, then you're in a very, very toxic and an unhealthy relationship. So our prayer and our purpose for you is that if you are in a relationship with a system impacted person, we would like for you, get this knowledge so you guys can have a healthy relationship. All
Absolutely.
right. So we're gonna say good night until next time. Again, Mr. Bruno, mad love to you. I appreciate you and I thank you. And if you ever need a sister, I'm here.
Same here.
All right. All right. Good
All
night, y'all.
all right.